Welcome aboard. We are live inside our Dunkin Music Lounge here in our headquarters in Hartford of iHeartMedia. I'm Mike Crispino, the voice of the Huskies, along with the head coach of the UConn football Huskies, Jim Mora. We've got a great crowd here with us tonight. A lot of our important sponsors and folks that support the program. We really appreciate their appearance here. Coach will be shaking hands, has already been doing that, signing autographs, but talking to us mostly for the next hour about UConn football. And Coach, first off, 6-6 regular season last year. That was the most wins in 7 years in this program. I might have asked you this one other time, but you took the program that had won 4 games in 3 years, 32 losses. What did you see in your mind that said, we can get this thing back up on its feet and get it moving forward?
Well, I think there was a lot of things. First of all, it was the people that were here. And I spent a lot of time with David Benedict in the interview process, and I got a lot of time spent with people on Zoom calls, whether they were administrators or they were former players or even our governor, some of our fans, members of our board of trustees. And there was just a passion that I felt amongst the people that were going to support the program. I'd spent time in Connecticut working in media, so I knew this area. I'd been on campus. I knew there was great facilities. And then I think the thing that made me really feel like we had a chance was when I was able to spend time with our players. We have a really unique group of players. I've been doing this I'd say all of my life, in some form or fashion. Football teams have always been a part of my life. And I found a group of young men that were very unique, especially in this day and age where there's a lot of entitlement out there, and these guys are just blue collar and they want to work and they understand the value of hard work and they don't take anything for granted. They don't expect anything. They're very close knit. They'd been through a lot together and they'd survived from having their season, COVID season canceled to the tough season the year before when there was a coaching change earlier in the year. And I felt like it's just that group of young men, if we could just somehow change the mindset a little bit, could do some good things. And I was really proud of them and the way that they overcame a 1-4 start. I think it was, a 1-4 start, and it could have gone either way. They could have gone into the well, here we go again, same old thing, and they never did that. And so that was something that inspired me every single day, just being around those players.
Yeah, they did lose 4 out of 5 to start the season. Outscored.
It's a gazillion to nothing.
I know. I'm going to give you the numbers. 148-24 in 3 games.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
You couldn't be more discouraged. I'm just thinking as a fan, as a coach, whatever. It didn't matter. You came back, you beat Fresno State, you beat BC, first time that ever happened. Liberty, you won 5 of the next 6. So, we're not going to spend too much time on last year, but there has to be a turning point sometimes in seasons. Can you remember what happened that got this thing going in the right direction?
Well, a few things. Number one, and there are no moral victories, but we had that 3-game stretch where most of those 148 points were scored. And, we played Syracuse and Michigan and NC State, and we never gave in. They never relented. We got beat, but our players never gave in, and that was a real positive for me. And to me, it kind of strengthened that belief that there was a real resolve around here amongst those players. I felt like the turning point in our season, if there was one, was actually in a loss. And that sounds probably counterintuitive, because usually people say, it was this win, this moment in this game. But it was at Ball State. We'd won a couple games, and I think we were maybe feeling ourselves a little bit. And we were up 21 to 7 maybe, going into the fourth quarter. And they just rammed the ball down our throat, and they beat us. And went in the locker room, and there was a different vibe in there. It was a group of men that were not ready to accept defeat anymore. They'd grown. Their standard had been raised. And I feel like that was when, maybe not the season, but hopefully the fortunes of the program started to really change in that moment.
So fast forward to this year. Last year, somebody smarter than I called it a revolution, and I thought that worked. Now this year you're calling it a reload. And for folks who don't know this, listening right now, 10 offensive players, who got a lot of time last year, back. You had 8 on defense back. That's a good number in college football today. How does that make you feel in terms of where you're at as a program and being able to step forward, having returning players like that who experienced everything that they did last year?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, it's huge because they understand the expectations. They have a much more clear understanding of what we're doing schematically, offensively, defensively on special teams. They have played alongside each other more, so they understand, how to work together. And then they set the tempo. They set the standard. They set the expectations for the guys that haven't played or haven't been starters. So I think we're really lucky. And a lot of times you can have a lot of returning starters, or returning players, but it's the actual who are the returners. So when you look at a guy like Christian, I'm just going to name 2 guys, Christian Haynes on offense and Jackson Mitchell on defense, you go, well, those are a couple guys that you like having to return because they set the expectations for everybody. Their work ethic is beyond reproach. Their attitude, their leadership, everything that they do, neither of them are very loud. They do it with their actions rather than their words, which I think the best leaders do. And so when you have those type of men returning, it bodes well for what you have, down the road.
Yeah, in college sports today, and we'll talk about this a little later in the show, with the transfer portal wide open all the time, guys can pick up the phone or whatever they do and get out of town in a minute. Keeping guys together is important. I mean, do you look at that as maybe your most important job, keeping guys in the fold and getting them feeling that next year is going to be better and we're going to do more?
I mean, it's certainly, I don't say it's the most important thing, but it's certainly important. You didn't, in the old days, have to recruit your own players. Now you have to continually recruit your own players. And, I think you do that a number of ways. Number one, if they're in an environment that's healthy, that's positive, that's upbeat, that shows hope, that they feel valued in, they feel pushed in, they feel disciplined in, they feel held to a certain standard. Because everyone winners want to be held to a high standard. They want people to be on them. If they feel like you're doing everything you can to help them maximize their ability, which maximizes their ability to maybe have a future in this business, then it's not necessarily recruiting. But that's what we try to do with all our players, regardless if there's a transfer portal or not. Because I think that's the right way to go about it, and so that's what we do. But I mean, there's been people that have come and tried to poach our players, and that's a big issue in the NCAA right now. It's not necessarily the transfer portal; it's these people that are breaking the rules by coming in and trying to pay your players before they're in the portal. And we've had that on several instances, and it's rampant across the country. And that's what scares me more than anything, is that someone comes in and buys someone off. Now, having said that, if we have a player on our team that's for sale and he decides to go somewhere else for money, then you know what? I probably don't want him on our team because he's on our team for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, there are a lot of athletes in the college level these days in all the sports, football, basketball, that are being offered sums of money, and they're trying to capitalize on their skills or whatever they have athletically. It's difficult. There's no question about it. We're going to talk about you have a new special assistant. You've got a new quarterback. You decided on who that's going to be. And then we're going to talk about preparation for a team that kicked your butt last year, NC State.
They didn't kick this team's butt. That team and this team, 2 different teams playing a week from tonight.
All right. I'm glad you put me in my place. I know you've said this before. We don't worry about revenge games or that stuff, but that stuff gets in my head.
No, I think
I get upset about things.
Yeah,
like
that. For fans and for people on the outside, it's what happened last year. But this is a new team for us, and it's a new team for them. So last year's team kicked last year's team's butt, but this game hadn't happened. This team has never played that team. So hey, they're really, really good. I mean, they're big, they're physical, they're fast, they're well coached. They have a new offensive coordinator, a new offensive line coach. Unfortunately, the coordinator came from Syracuse, who kicked. Last year's team kicked our team's butt, so there's some challenges there, but it's going to be fun.
Yeah, their offensive coordinator, Robert Anay, I think you pronounce it. Guy came from Virginia. Now, I was a huge fan of Mike Leach, God rest his soul, when the way he ran offense, and this guy's kind of like him. So we're going to talk about that. You're a defensive coordinator. You got to be having some sleepless nights here getting ready for this NC State team.
I am. Yeah, here's the problem is that so the coordinator, the offensive line coach, and the quarterback who just transferred in were all together at Virginia in 2021. Then the offensive coordinator went to Syracuse last year, and now all three of them are back together at NC State this year. So we are looking at 2021 Virginia tape, because they got the same quarterback, same offensive line coach, same offensive coordinator. We're looking at 2022 Syracuse film because that's where Nea was. And we've also got to look at the personnel of NC State. So it could be a little confusing unless you're able to sort it out for your players, which we've been working hard to do.
And the good thing is you have an experienced group on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, I love our defensive line.
I do too.
I love those guys, Eric Watts, all of them. And you have 6 or 7 defensive linemen. I mean, just throw some names out there of guys that you can go to, in different formations, different down and distance situations. It's a nice thing to have.
I think it's the most physically demanding position to play on the football field, because you've got these monsters coming at you every down. You're taking on double teams, so you have to be able to have a rotation. And I think that we've got, this sounds crazy, but we've got 10 or 11 guys, maybe 11 or 12 guys that I feel we can put in the game and win with at that position, and that's a credit to them and the way they've worked. It's a credit to Matt King, our strength and conditioning coach, and the way that he's helped develop them, and our nutritionist, Sarah, and Kenny McClendon, our defensive line coach, but most of all to the players and the way they've committed to being good players.
Yeah, Ryan Yates. I'm just going to yell some names up. Price Yates, redshirt sophomore. Colin McCarthy. Dalmont Gordine. Is that right? Is it Gordine or Gordine?
Yeah.
Something like that.
It's Dal.
Jelani Stafford, Eric Watts, Carter Hooper. I mean, these guys, they were skilled last year, and they did some great things last year. I'm really looking forward to that D-line.
R.J. Wilkins.
We have to go to a commercial break. So we're gonna do that as Vanessa's stepping in. Thank you, Vanessa. You're listening to the UConn Football Coaches Show. Jim Mora is here, and we'll be back with more.